If you think the devil doesn't exist, this story will change your mind. Family, this episode's confession is one that carries weight in the spirit. It is the story of a man who found himself in a battle far deeper than anything he ever imagined, a battle with the devil himself. A journey that began the moment he made a covenant he thought would bring him success, but instead opened the door to darkness, fear, and torment. He didn't know that signing that covenant would drag him into a night where the forces of evil rose against him, a night when darkness demanded ownership of his life. Many people today are fighting silent battles. Some are walking with wounds no one sees. Some have entered agreements they didn't fully understand, and some are living under the weight of decisions that felt harmless at first, but turned into chains. As you listen to his confession, open your heart, because this is more than a confession. This is a warning, a reminder, and a revelation of what truly happens when desperation meets deception, when the promise of breakthrough hides a spiritual trap, and when a person unknowingly steps into a covenant with darkness. Let us begin.
I still remember the night my battle with the devil began. Not the night I signed the covenant, no. The night after. The night everything inside my room shifted from normal to terrifying. It was 2:49 a.m. I know because I saw the numbers on my phone glow brightly just before the air changed. I woke up to a sound. A sharp, dragging sound on the floor. Like claws. At first, I thought it was a dream, but then the temperature dropped so sharply that my breath turned visible in the darkness. My chest tightened. Something was in the room with me. Something watching. When I tried to sit up, my entire body froze. I couldn't move. I couldn't blink. I couldn't even pray. My room suddenly felt too small for what was standing in it. Then I heard it, a deep, angry whisper. "You belong to me now." That was when I knew the covenant I had signed earlier wasn't symbolic. It wasn't a formality. It wasn't cultural. It was a doorway. I had opened myself up to something ancient and hungry, and it had come to claim me. But this was not where my story began. To understand why I allowed darkness to enter my life, you need to know what pushed me there. Because no one wakes up one morning and decides to give their destiny away. You see, desperation, hunger, shame, rejection. These things slowly break a person until the devil's offer looks like a blessing. And that was exactly where my life had led me. To take you back, you should understand first of all that I wasn't born evil. I didn't grow up dreaming of powers, shortcuts, or covenants. My journey into darkness began long before I even knew I was walking toward it. It began with survival. Now, the thing is, where I grew up, life was not about dreams, it was about enduring the next day. In my home, we didn't talk about calling or purpose. We talked about school fees. We talked about debts. We talked about how to stretch one meal to feed 5 people. My mother was tired. My father was present, but his presence carried the weight of a man who was losing his battle with life. The truth is, everyday conversations in our home sounded like this: will we have money for food tomorrow? Will the landlord embarrass us again? Will the power company disconnect our light? The harsh reality is that, by the time I turned 20, I had learned 3 painful truths. The world doesn't respect effort, it respects results. People only value you when your life looks successful. No one listens to a struggling man. And the truth was, I was struggling in every direction. No job lasted. No business survived beyond a few months. Every application I submitted disappeared without response. Friends who once believed in me began to distance themselves quietly. Relatives started whispering that maybe I was under a spell, or maybe I was simply unlucky. The worst part was the humiliation. People I helped in the past now avoided me. Some even mocked me openly, saying things like, maybe his destiny is blocked. Maybe he needs spiritual help. Maybe he's cursed. And the painful thing about constant failure is this: it weakens your sense of right and wrong. It bends your judgment. It makes you desperate enough to listen to anyone who promises hope. That's when I met him, the man who would eventually lead me into darkness. His name was Uncle Femi. Not a real uncle, but close enough to the family that we called him one. He had been around since my childhood, always well dressed, always confident, always respected. He helped my father in the past. He supported us during hard times. He attended family events. He wasn't just trusted, he was adored. You see, out of everyone around me, he was the last person I would ever suspect of having anything to do with darkness. One afternoon, after seeing me exhausted, defeated, and on the verge of giving up, he called me to his house and told me that, "You're too gifted to be suffering like this. I've watched you since you were small. Your star is bright. Something is blocking you." Those words hit me harder than any prophecy I'd ever heard. For the first time in years, I felt seen. I felt someone understood. I also felt acknowledged. He didn't stop there. He told me about my childhood dreams, dreams I hadn't shared with anyone. He told me my struggles weren't ordinary. He told me that he once faced the same problems until someone helped unlock his destiny. Of course, I believed him. Why wouldn't I? He wasn't a stranger. He wasn't a random prophet. He was family. A man who had helped us many times. A man who was visibly successful. And when you're drowning, even a dangerous hand looks like salvation. He introduced himself not as a spiritual man, but as someone who understood real-world battles, battles of destiny, opportunity, and breakthrough. He told me, "I know the right people to talk to. I know where your destiny can be opened. Nothing is wrong with you. Something is blocking you." Then he delivered the sentence that cracked open the door of darkness in my life. "Unless you make a covenant, nothing will work for you." He said it casually, like it was normal, like it was just another step towards success. I should have asked questions. But desperation is a dangerous spirit. It pushes you toward solutions even when they smell like death. The truth is that, the more he spoke, the more hope I felt. He described the covenant as a small spiritual agreement, nothing serious, nothing dramatic. He said everyone who succeeded had done something, that nothing in life just happens naturally. And because he had been like a second father to me, because he had protected us in the past, because he wore wealth like a second skin, I trusted him. That trust was my downfall. He told me the covenant would open doors, break barriers, and align my destiny. He said my life would change, money, opportunities, favor, everything would begin to flow. He said the people who mocked me would bow one day. He said I would rise quickly, in ways that would shock even my enemies. And for the first time in a long time, I wanted to believe in something, and so, I agreed. You see, I thought I was stepping into a spiritual shortcut to success. I thought I understood what I was getting into, but what awaited me was far darker, far colder, and far more terrifying than anything I ever imagined. I didn't know it then, but the road I stepped onto was not a road to breakthrough. It was a slow descent into a covenant that would haunt my life and eventually claim it. Because the covenant night was waiting. I never truly understood fear until the night of the covenant. Not the kind of fear that makes your hands shake, but the kind that creeps under your skin, the kind that sits quietly in your blood and whispers that something terrible is about to happen. The man who guided me into darkness had told me only one thing before we left town. Whatever you see tonight, don't ask questions. And so, we drove for nearly an hour. No street lights, no houses, no signs of life. Just a long, lonely road stretching into nowhere, like the world itself was holding its breath. Eventually, we reached an old compound. The moment I stepped out of the car, I felt the air different. It was dry, heavy, almost metallic. The place smelled of dust, secrecy, and something ancient. The compound was surrounded by cracked walls and broken stones. The windows of the building were without glass, just hollow, black holes staring out into the night. I could feel eyes on me, even though no one was there. I told myself it was just nervousness. But deep down, I knew it was something else. The man walked ahead of me without turning back. I followed him because I felt like if I stopped, I would never move again. When we entered the room, everything was already prepared. It was as though they had been expecting me. In the center of the room was a large circle made of candlelight, dozens of candles arranged carefully, their flames flickering like restless souls. Strange symbols were drawn on the floor with something dark. I didn't want to know what it was. The drawings seemed to pause and breathe, like they were alive. At the very heart of the circle was a small wooden box, plain, old, unassuming. But somehow, it felt like the most dangerous thing in the room. The man turned to me and finally spoke, "Stand inside the circle." My legs almost refused, but something pulled me forward. Fear, desperation, hope. I don't even know which one controlled me. When I stepped into the circle, it felt like crossing into a different world. The air was colder inside. The flames dimmed slightly. And the silence felt heavy, like 1,000 whispers holding their breath. The man reached into his pocket and pulled out a small blade. He held it out to me. I didn't take it. My hands were shaking too much. He placed it firmly into my palm and whispered, "Just a drop." But the way he said it felt like more than blood was required. My throat tightened. My heart pounded. Every part of me screamed to run. But I remembered why I was there. The struggles, the failures, the shame, the suffering. The feeling that life had passed me by and I was still standing where I started. Those thoughts pushed me to press the blade to my skin. The pain was sharp but quick. A single drop of blood rolled down my hand, fell from my fingertip, and landed on the wooden box. That was the moment everything changed. The candles around me flickered violently, not like normal wind, but like something angry had entered the room. A sudden gust of cold swept across my body even though the windows were shut tight. Then, the atmosphere thickened. I could feel something rushing into the circle. Not a person. Not an animal. A presence. It was cold, ancient, and powerful. My ears began to ring. My vision blurred. The room seemed to tilt slightly, as though the world itself had shifted. Then I heard a voice. But it wasn't coming from the man, or the walls, or the air. The voice echoed inside my mind, deep, heavy, and commanding. "You want success? Give me your surrender." My breath collapsed in my chest. My heart stopped for a moment. I tried to look at the man who brought me, but my neck wouldn't move. It felt like invisible chains were wrapped around me. The presence circled me. I couldn't see it, but I could feel it. Every part of me trembled. It was like something was scanning me, studying me, measuring me. Then it happened. A sharp, cold sensation wrapped itself around my spirit. Not my body, my spirit. It felt like something reached inside me and touched the deepest part of my soul. I felt it claim me, mark me, stamp something invisible onto my being. In that moment, I knew this was not symbolic. This was not a ritual of tradition or culture. This was not harmless. I had crossed a line. This was real. And I had just given darkness legal access to my life. The candle suddenly steadied. The air began to warm. The ringing in my ears faded. And then, as if nothing supernatural had just happened, the man walked into the circle, picked up the wooden box, and smiled at me. Not a comforting smile. A knowing smile. A satisfied smile. He placed a hand on my shoulder and said calmly, "You will start seeing changes immediately." And he was right. But what he didn't say, what he intentionally hid, was the price. He didn't tell me that every blessing from darkness carries a curse. He didn't tell me that every gift from evil demands something in return. He didn't tell me that the covenant I signed that night would follow me home, into my sleep, into my mind, into every corner of my life. As we left the compound, I looked back at the candlelit room. The flames flickered one last time, almost as if they were waving goodbye. I didn't know then. But that night would become the beginning of the greatest spiritual battle I had ever faced. The devil had accepted my offering. And now, I belonged to him.
Family, this is the confession of someone who walked into darkness looking for light. And maybe, just maybe, someone out there is going through the same silent battle right now. The enemy never shows the real cost of a covenant. He hides the chains under the promise. He hides the bondage under the blessing. But the truth remains, anything the devil gives will eventually destroy you. If you are watching this and you feel trapped, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, know this, you are not alone. Freedom is possible. Restoration is real. Deliverance is still happening. Call on Jesus. Let's meet again to finish his story. And if you have a story to share, a testimony, a confession, a warning, reach out to us. Your story may save someone else's life. Watch the story at the end of the screen to even listen to a much more shocking confession from a pastor.